Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dragon Talk. How's it going, Matt?
Pretty good.
We are excited this Monday morning. You can tell from our demeanor.
Yeah.
Yay! We are very excited. How are you all doing in Twitch land? We are here for another live recording of the Dragon Talk. Today we're going to start off with a lore you should know segment or two with Mr. Matt Cernit.
Howdy.
Today we're going to talk about Tieflings first, and then we'll do Gith, both Yankee and Sarai. Zerai, I should say.
Zerai.
You got to pronounce the Z. It's the only way people will know.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've corrected Githzerai in documents over the last 2 weeks. I don't know why.
I don't know what. Yeah.
I think I was the perpetrator.
Okay.
I think I started with an S because I just have heard it pronounced.
Sarah. Like,
well, Mordenkainen spells it with an S. No, he doesn't. No, he uses the Z. Does Mordenkainen use the dash in the middle of the Z to make sure it's a Z?
I have no idea. Yeah.
He does that when he's doing his glyphs, clearly. So then we're then going to have an awesome interview with Kat Kruger and Jen Vaughn from D20 Dames about their podcast. It's pretty awesome. I can't wait to talk to them about it. It's a great, I think, example of weaving stories that are printed, whether through D&D Adventurers League or our larger hardcover books, into a story that they're telling at the table. So they got lots of great ways that they do that in their podcast, and that's what I'm going to ask them about, in addition to how they started playing and all the fun stuff we normally do. And then we have an interview with Molly Knox Ostertag at 5 p.m. We're aiming to start that one. So we might go dark for a little while as we set up for the Skype live interview and all that. And by dark, I mean we just won't be talking directly to stuff into microphones. But it is pretty exciting nonetheless. We will get it all good to go. And then a couple other fun things I wanted to tell you about. We mentioned Mordenkainen. Of course, that's one of the reasons why we're talking about Tiefling and Gith to begin with. That is for a new product called Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It is coming out wide release May 29th with a cover by Jason Rainville, which I can show to you guys right here.
It's so cool.
It is so cool. This is the standard cover that you'll be able to get everywhere and forever. Definitely a new, I wouldn't say like a new imagining of Mordenkainen's visage, but right? Because it's kind of how he's looked always, right?
Well, there's been a couple different versions, but that's sort of the most iconic.
I think a couple people on Twitter said that he looks, they didn't realize that he looked like Ming the Merciless.
He does look like Ming the Merciless, actually. Even in the older versions, yeah.
Yeah. So you only have, 24 hours to save the universe. Or is it 18 hours to save the universe?
24?
Something like that.
I should know this. It's like all tattooed on the inside of my skull, like the whole script. So
one of these recordings, we're just going to basically do the whole Flash Gordon movie the entire time. I'll just take care of the music. So then the alternate cover is this one. It is designed and illustrated by Vance Kelly. This will be available in game stores starting on May 18th. It's limited. We're only printing a certain number of these, so once they are gone, they are gone. A little bit of a departure from the other special edition alternate covers that have been out. We did one for Volo's Guide to Monsters. That one was black and silver. This one is teal and
gold.
Yeah, teal and gold. Xanathar's had some gold and black in it as well, also designed by Hydra 74. This one's by Mr. Vance Kelly, as I said, and you'll be able to get that May 18th in your local game store. I suggest you pre-order that now.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of people say that they did not get the cover that they wanted because their store did not have them in stock. And please, if you frequent your store, let them know that you would like a copy of this special edition cover so that they make sure they get enough copies in their premises, because we have heard from a lot of folks that they only ordered a few number of them and then they were gone pretty fast. So one way to alleviate that is to let the store owner know that you want one of these.
Yeah, you can give them a call, or you can walk in and bribe them by buying something else.
Exactly. That's the way to do it. So you're like, I'm a return customer. Make it happen. Very cool. No, we have not gotten to the tiefling part yet, but we will start, I guess, with that pretty soon. Yeah, mine as well. The only thing I wanted to mention were some Twitch happenings. We're hosting a really fun show, Loading Ready Run, tonight after the recording of this. They start at 5 p.m., but we will begin hosting them around 6 p.m. I love those crazy Canadians. I've been friends and or colleagues of theirs for a long time. They were at my old job as one of the featured players. So happy to see them returning to playing Dungeons & Dragons online. They've been doing a few things of that, so go check them out. It's called Dice Friends, and it will be hosting after this recording directly. Mike Murrow's Happy Fun Hour has been going on for a while. He's been working on the Thief Acrobat tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. He is going through and making subclasses on the fly, the ones that he ordered for you or that patrons of our Extra Life campaign ordered from him. So Thief Acrobat is the one he's working on tomorrow. Dragon Plus is from 2 to 3. Mr. Bart Carroll has got two people he's speaking to, Stephen David Wark from a little known thing that you might find out tomorrow, as well as Adam Coble from Roll20. So that'll be pretty exciting. I'll be on there for D&D news. And then Dice Camera Action returns with episode 81. Rachel Seeley returning again. Her adventurer is ready to perhaps see out that story to its end. It's been a crazy bit of plot happening with Dice Camera Action, so I can't wait to see how that is resolved. I think a few folks are waiting to see if that we're going to have a happy episode. I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen, but we'll see. And then don't forget, we have been hosting this awesome show called Waffle Talk with a Power Score RPG and a few others talking about the Dice Camera Action episode that just aired. We're now hosting the C Team on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and got a bunch of other stuff happening over the course of this whole week. I will get to that in our other bits because, gosh, I'm going to be doing the spiel twice more today, so I don't want to spoil it for all of you visitors out there. So, yeah, let's get ready to start our recording of segments of Lore You Should Know on Tieflings. You guys all ready? You all ready for that? Bump, bump. I heard the clicks. That means we're good to go. All right. Without further ado.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I am.
You feeling it?
Yep.
Yeah, you got that electric Tiefling feeling?
Absolutely.
Welcome to another segment of Lore You Should Know. I am Greg Tito, and on this segment, I'm joined by Mr. Matt Cernit.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
We are going to talk about a little bit of Dungeons & Dragons lore in this segment that you can infect into your game and or for your own edification. And this one is going to be on Tieflings, which get a little bit of love in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, which comes out widely May 29th. But we are going to talk more about where Tieflings started and where they ended up and where they're going to be in Mordenkainen.
It was a strange and twisted road the Tieflings have traveled down.
It's true. Because they started off as humans, right? And then they entered in. This is my surface knowledge of Tieflings. Then they entered into a contract with Asmodeus, and therefore were completely changed almost in their features as well as their behavior.
Right. So that's pretty close to the like 5th edition interpretation of what Tieflings are.
Okay.
You're 90% there. But insofar as like their publication history and like why they are what they are and all that stuff, it's way weirder than that.
Oh, let's get weird.
So if you go back to Planescape,
yes,
Planescape introduced Tieflings and Asmar, which were sort of the flip side of one another. And basically, Tieflings were any person who had in their ancestry some sort of infernal creature, and Asmar were the reverse. And so in 2nd edition, there were lots of different types of weird infernal creatures, demons, devils, Yugoloths, the Durgoloths, not Durgoloths, but the other ones from Carcerai, which name is forgetting right now. But anyways, there's a whole bunch of different types of different things.
Right.
And basically, if you had some ancestry of that way back when, who knows when, you could become a Tiefling. And they had a variety of abilities, a variety of appearances. Maybe you just had snake eyes, or maybe you had hooves for feet, or maybe you had a crab claw, and I don't know. Like, it just was just, woo.
I would love to have a crab claw. Now I want to make a crab claw Tiefling. That sounds fun. So it was just to reiterate what you're saying, was like anywhere back in their ancestry, if they had like 1/16 of fiend in their blood.
There were at that point in the game, there were different types. There were sort of different shades of fiends. So there were alu fiends and not alu fiends. The other one, they're in the monster manual, and I'm forgetting the name right now. But basically, like if you were half demon or half devil, you would be this one thing, and then if you were a little step away, you'd be this other thing. And Tiefling was like somewhere back there.
Okay, so Cambion, is that the word?
Cambion is what I was looking for. Yes.
Okay, so it's if your mother was a devil and your father was a human, then you were a Cambion. But then as it went farther and farther down, it makes sense.
It would just sort of dilute down to somebody who has a weird eye and a wonky finger, and then they have some magic powers. And the magic powers were kind of different depending on what you were and all that kind of a thing. I mean, there was I think there were tables that had to do that at one point. There were sort of like different powers that you have, like.
So you could randomly find out what your innate power was.
Yeah, let's see. They all have infravision, create darkness, but then they had different preferences for spells and things like that. So it was just a very varied thing, and it was because there were lots of different interpretations of tieflings across like all of the planes. They wanted to populate the planes with all the different creatures.
Yeah. And
so you'd have tieflings and Aasimar and things like that all over the place, and you could meet them anywhere and so on and so forth. So that was that's how it was in second edition.
Got it. All right, cool. Let's pause here if we can. Can we pause the recording? Did that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's add in you now, Chris, because we just started like a minute ago.
Sure. Okay.
Are you okay? Are you able to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. I didn't want to go too long, so if it might make sense if you're here, get you in. Yeah, we just started doing the Lore You Should Know segment itself like 3 minutes ago.
Doodle-doo-doo.
Doodle-doo-doo-doo. Thank you, guys. You get to watch the magic of Ryan Marth make things happen.
Sorry, I'm late. Yeah.
No worries.
We'll wrap up in top secret conversations.
Yeah, part of us were just like, oh, he's busy, but so we were gonna roll with the punches. But if you're here, you're here.
Mic stand.
This is the one bad one too.
Bad mic stand.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Bad mic stand. Bad mic
I
stand.
have a hard stop at 3.
Okay, cool. We should we should have that in the bag. I like your T-shirt.
Thank you.
I'm glad I didn't put that on before this. I had a moment of like, oh, I'll put that on, and I'm glad I did not. We would have been
Twinsies.
Wonder Twins. Purple Twins activate.
Purple Twins.
Form of ampersand that kind of looks like a old EA logo. Anybody? Epics, or was that Epics, that old like Commodore 64 looking thing?
It looks old style.
Yeah.
I can't place it.
Yeah, I think it's a Ready Player One thought combiner. Right? That makes sense.
Yep.
We like to give all of the scoops to people on our Twitch stream. By the way, Ready Player One is a movie, not a book.
90% correct.
Awesome. All right, cool. Should we start that over, Ryan, or should we? Can we just take it up where we are?
Magically
It's up to
appear.
you.
Yeah.
Start over if you want.
Yeah, we might as well just start over.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, we talked a little bit, but right, if we're gonna, I think it would be weird if he magically appeared on the thing, like, oh, by the way, Chris Burke. Or we could just do like, oh,
Yeah.
Chris Burke just sat down, and he's gonna say something about second edition Tieflings. Let's just do that. All right.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm good. I'm good with that. So we are just gonna
Carry on.
Yeah, I'll just say a thing, being like, and more on that thought. We have Chris Perkins joining us.
Okay, stop yawning.
So we had just talked about their appearance in Planescape and how they differed from Cambions and
Alofiends.
Alofiends.
Matt, you're talking, but your mouth isn't moving. How are you able to do this?
Are you an automaton?
Do you need to hear what you guys were just talking about, or are you good?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we might repeat ourselves, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. people like us to repeat ourselves, so people learn things. That's it's an old teaching trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we Mr. Chris Perkins is just able to join
Hi.
us. Hi, Chris.
Yes.
So Matt was just letting us know all about second edition and how Tieflings were introduced. Do you have any? Is there a specific adventure where they were first talked about, or was it in the Planescape itself?
It was in the Planescape itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were a big part, I think maybe for some people, their first introduction might have been Planescape Torment, for those of you who were not a follower of Planescape in the
Yep.
mid-'90s. I know a lot of people jumped on it from there. They were a big part of the City of Brass, or Doors, rather.
Yep. Yep.
And so then I guess third edition happens, and Tieflings really don't change much, I don't think.
No, they do not.
I mean, that might be where they had some of the sort of tables of random powers or something like that I seem to recall, but I don't remember now whether that's true or not.
But then at this point, they were monstrous only, right? They were not really encouraged to be player characters.
No, you could play Tieflings.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
rolling up Tiefling characters in third edition.
Was it it wasn't a out of the box, right? It wasn't in the player's handbook.
No.
Right, so it was
Tieflings didn't land in the player's handbook until fourth.
That's correct. Okay, that makes
Third
sense.
had sort of invented some specific types of Tieflings. So there's like the Tanaruk, which were like a orc type in the Forgotten Realms, and I think technically the Feyre are also Tieflings. And
What are the Feyre?
they're elf, demon mixed people.
Okay, so similar to my current understanding in fifth, where there were humans who went into pacts with devils. There were elves that also made those pacts, and then they got similarly transformed.
Yeah, although there might have also been sexy times. I don't know.
we leave that to all to your interpretation and or imagination, as the case may be. So what was the leap then from third to fourth in which they wanted to be part of the player's handbook and part of the initial offering of races?
Wow, so it was less of a leap and more of a hard right turn.
There was a definite attempt to get sort of these bad girl characters into the game, just to give players that chance to flirt with the dark side. But with fourth edition, one of the important edicts was to make sure that all the races had very iconic appearances, and so Tiefling was used very broadly in earlier editions, and one Tiefling could look altogether different from another and have completely different hellish or infernal or abyssal traits. With fourth edition, the look of the Tiefling was basically nailed down to a look. There was some variation between the male and the female, but they all kind of looked like a race, as opposed to just random planar mashing up of different traits and things.
I see. So that was where we kind of codified the idea of like, they all have horns, they all have
Their horns are
tails.
sort of like this, their
Sort of
tails
a
are like
reddish
this.
skin.
We had standard sizes. Part of that was we were going to start really putting them into more computer games and things like that, and being able to
Miniatures.
create three-dimensional models and then stick to those models and then be able to modify those existing models.
Yeah.
And part of it was the urge for just intellectual property-wise to make sure that when you pointed at it, we could say that is a D&D Tiefling. And we own that.
Right, as opposed to that's somebody with a weird eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who might have had a
Yeah.
devil in
Yeah.
his
Right.
ancestry.
And for purposes of the art, people coming in new to the game, when they looked at a character, they could tell right away it was a Tiefling. There was no mystery about what its origins were.
That makes sense, and I definitely think it was successful in that
Yeah.
regard. I don't really.
In
I
that-
think of Tieflings
yes.
very much
Right,
the
and-
same after
yeah.
that.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And because of that, the story needed to undergo revision, and it became a little bit more contained. So Tieflings of 4th edition, they all tie back to infernal ancestry. And their backstory suggests that they were human. Their human empires collapsed after they made pacts with devils, and the Tieflings became this sort of splintered,
Yeah.
divided people.
The sort of non-world world that was created for 4th edition. It had different terminology that we used to reference it.
It was most commonly called the Points of Light
concept,
or Points of Light campaign.
And what was the Valley product? The
Nentir
Vale. Yeah.
Yes.
So like it's also referred to as the Nentir Vale setting.
Yeah.
And in that, the Tieflings' origins are directly tied to an ancient empire, Baal Tarath.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you're right. It's the city of Orkoth
Yes.
in Baal Tarath.
Got it.
Yeah.
And they had a big war with Arcosia, I think it is, which is the Dragonborn. And so it's all sort of tied back to that time. I think I wrote a whole, I don't know how long the book was, but it was a book that was about Tieflings and so on. So it delved into all that kind of a thing and very much sort of developed that idea. And it was a fun thing to play with, this sort of one origin story of like basically these people who came from this one empire. It was kind of like this idea of like a really hyper corrupt Rome, with magic and people making pacts with devils and stuff like that, and then like that society kind of collapsing in and on itself and that kind of a thing.
It's interesting, right? Yeah, there was something I remember talking about it a lot in the Nentir Vale terms when after the red box came off. We did all the content in that, and then I was like, here's just 2 ideas, and it was those Arcosia and the Baal Tarath and them having this epic war that I ended up doing was a Ice Age campaign because of course the bad guys, the Tieflings, wanted to hurt the Dragonborn, who in my world were cold-blooded, and so how are we going to kill them off? We started an Ice Age, and then they had to deal with that.
That seems extreme.
It seems extreme. I know, but I'm like remembering these things. Like, I remember Baal Tarath. I remember all these, and they were just the tendrils that were able to create all this backstory. So how do now Tieflings relate to the Forgotten Realms and what's happening now?
Well, so with what happened in the Forgotten Realms is that Tieflings got introduced to the setting, but they weren't attached to that Baal Tarath story. But they were all looking similar again, and so that idea was sort of cemented and fixed by some novels by Erin Evans, where she has something called it's like I'm gonna have to look it up. It's like the Ascension of Asmodeus. That's what it is. And basically, Asmodeus works out some deal and great ritual by which his power can kind of overtake all of these other bloodlines of fiends out there, and sort of he tries to kind of gain control of all their souls and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's what ends up basically making all of these Tieflings, who previously had crab claws and weird eyes and things like that, to be something recognizable, with reddish skin and horns.
They did the same thing with Klingons in Star Trek, so.
Yes, that's true, right? They look, all right, now you have to look this way.
Yeah. Everybody has to have the ridges and
and so, her novels, which have to deal with a number of different Tiefling characters and all that whole struggle and all that kind of thing, kind of cemented what it meant for the realms, so that when we were doing 5th edition, we knew we were kind of focusing more on the realms as kind of the main setting. We were leaving behind Nentir Vale and Baal Tarath and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That gave us direction for what we were going to do with Tieflings from there on out.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Erin actually wrote up a fairly large, meaty document that kind of helped us define the Tieflings of the Forgotten Realms and where they are in the present state of things. And we use that as a guideline. The Forgotten Realms isn't a Tiefling-centric location.
Yeah.
Where you're likely to find them are in like major cities like Kalimport or Waterdeep. Neverwinter. Yeah.
It's interesting though because they occupy, I think, a large member of the player population, or is something. Some people are very fascinated with that idea of a fallen, race. It's the idea of being able to be redeemed and to work against those type of things. I mean, that's a very strong, compelling thing. If you were gonna introduce more Tieflings or use Tiefling stories in a Forgotten Realms thing that you're running, what would you do?
Well, I think that largely depends on the configuration of the party. Like, as it happens, I run a weekly live stream game, and one of the characters is a tiefling.
Yes.
So I feel like I can deal with tieflings through the lens of that character and tie any tieflings that come into the story might have something to do with her or might connect with her in a special way. They might try to draft her to get help in doing some task that tieflings would do. She might get recruited into some diabolical cult, or, as the case may be, she might encounter members of her larger family who might just drop by for a visit now and then. With tieflings, the sort of through line or the theme is you're not human. Humans probably regard you with a bit of suspicion given your ancestry. How do you overcome that or deal with that kind of, I don't want to go as far as to say prejudice, because that may not be existent in the game, but there's that element of you are kind of strange. And your history or your people's history is suspicious, at the very least. So I think they're really great in campaigns where you can maybe trumpet that up a little bit and create a sense of unease because there is a tiefling party member present, or give play up the villainy of Asmodeus and devil cults more than you would have if you didn't have a tiefling in the party.
Makes sense. Are there any named characters of tieflings? It's something I'm kind of, other than Strix, who you mentioned, Holly Conrad's character in Dice Camera Action. Is there any other that people could look towards as templates?
Yeah, well, there's certainly the characters from Aaron's Brimstone Angels novels to look at. Insofar as like the 5th edition and 4th edition like source material for Forgotten Realms, there's a few places where they're mentioned. There's actually a judge in Waterdeep who is a tiefling.
Yeah.
There's really a judge?
Yes.
Yeah. Like a magistrate?
Yeah, she's one of the Black Robes. Her name is Kylin Silmerhelve of the Silmerhelve family.
And there's a tiefling who's was in one of the Dragon or Team Out adventures, who was a member of the what's her name?
Tyranny of Dragons.
Tyranny of Dragons, but she's Scarlet Cloak or Crimson Cloak or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Gosh, name escapes me right now.
Yeah, but she's up north. There's a fun little bit in the story of it's not Eldergard. It's the town that's to the south of Sundabar. No, Scornable, where they had this tiefling was sort of accused of doing all sorts of terrible things, and so was killed. But it turns out the tiefling is actually a harper, and so it's this weird, underhanded, bizarre little backstory thing. So.
All right.
There are a bunch of tieflings also in Sigil, the City of Doors.
Right. Why do they kind of congregate there?
Because generally all kinds of weird creatures can congregate there and not feel like they're out of place.
So if they've found it accidentally, be like, oh, all right, I can find a home here.
They could walk into that city and look around and say, well, I am the least weird person here.
Yeah. if there's any weird monster from any edition of the game that you love, it's got to be there. Like, that's the one place you can find it. Like,
You're like, my crab claws are actually useful here. Yeah. Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, if people have any questions about tieflings or their origin, how can they get in touch with you guys?
I'm on Twitter at Chris Perkins DND.
Awesome.
I'm also on Twitter at Sernett, SERNETT.
Awesome. And you should definitely watch more of Dice Camera Action on Tuesdays at 4 p.m.
Yeah, for some real tiefling action and a few great tiefling lines. Holly is full of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll be back with another segment next week. I feel like we should re-record that.
Why?
I don't know. I was like going all over. Maybe my brain was everywhere. We'll fix it in post. Maybe have Erin on. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. We should because I do think she did the deep dive on them and Dragonborn. But anyway, let's move on to Githyanki and Githzerai.
Yankee.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're back, guys. So just a quick bit. Yeah, sorry, there was some weird interactions with Twitch and the sound. So those of you who are commenting on the clipping audio, that's what it was all about. We were trying to figure it out, but it looks to be on the Twitch side of things, not anything we're doing different locally here. So we're just going to persevere and go through it and record our next segment. We have a hard out here at 3 p.m., so we got to get to as much Gith talk as we can.
Yep.
So
Gith cracking.
Gith. We're just going to repeat that joke over and over again for the entire segment. Welcome to another Lore You Should Know segment. I am Greg Tito, and I'm joined by Lore Masters Mr. Chris Perkins.
Hello.
And Matt Cernit.
Howdy.
And today, in this segment, where we talk about little bits of Dungeons & Dragons lore you can use in your game or for your own edification, we're going to talk about Gith.
Gith.
Yeah.
Which is the name of the entire race.
Correct. It used to be one race. Now it's two.
Yep.
The Githzerai with a Z.
Yep.
And the Githyanki.
Yes.
All right. So where were the Gith first mentioned in Dungeons & Dragons
First
lore?
edition Fiend Folio.
Boom.
Bam.
Yep. So they go way back.
Were they both races at that point, or were they?
They were both
Yes.
described separately, but the history of them being one race was there, present from the very beginning. They were created by author Charles Strauss, who contributed to the book back before he became an amazing novelist.
Yeah, and I think that was first published in White Dwarf, so it wasn't officially a D&D thing, but White Dwarf at the time was a magazine that was devoted to sort of all role-playing games, just like
Right.
Dragon was devoted
Yes.
to all role-playing
And
games.
a lot when the British TSR team was putting together the Fiend Folio, they pulled a lot of material
From all those places
to stuff into the book. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Also, he created the Slotty, which we had talked about in the previous installment. So,
Slotty. I like that.
Charlie gave us both the Slotty and the Gith.
That's cool. So yeah, what was the story of where they came from? Where that first Gith?
They were a race enslaved, human.
Unclear.
They were a bipedal race that were enslaved by the Mind Flayers.
The Illithid Empire.
The Illithid Empires, yes. And they broke free of that yoke, thanks in large part to a champion among them whose name was Gith. She was this great figure in their history. She helped liberate the people from their overlords, and they honored her by basically naming themselves after her. The problem is that they splintered shortly thereafter into the two races they are today. And those races have not seen eye to eye since.
Yes.
And we've talked about the Illithid Empire, but it was always kind of thought of as this large, sprawling, all over the realm space and Spelljammer universes. So it had lots of sci-fi tendrils in there. Is that true of the Gith as well because of those origins?
Well, yeah. So one of the things that's really interesting about the Mind Flayer Empire and all that kind of thing is that it's not clear where it was or when it was. So, it's clear that it might have been partially on the astral plane. That's mentioned a few times. But certainly it was also in worlds and so on. But now the Githyanki are in the astral plane and nary a Mind Flayer to be seen. So something happened. Something big. So and so there's sort of an interesting idea inherent in sort of the little fringes of lore there that maybe the Mind Flayers basically got kicked out of the astral plane by the Githyanki.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right,
and
that
given the
makes sense.
Githyanki's nature, that's not beyond the pale.
Yeah.
The other thing, it's a little ambiguous, but that it's possible that during their enslavement, that's when they became psionic. That the Mind Flayers essentially made these people into their psionic thralls, and that sort of explains why both Githzerai and Githyanki can manifest psionic abilities, and that's the sci-fi connection.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of other creatures that have been enslaved by the Mind Flayers who don't have psychic abilities, these guys apparently do.
They were able to learn
Yes.
and or kind of innately get those abilities.
They're not exactly the same. Githyanki psionic abilities develop differently from Githzerai ones. They have abilities that the Githzerai don't have, and vice versa. But there is also some overlap, which is important, I think, to suggest or reinforce the idea that they were one people at one point and then became ideologically separated, with the Githyanki of the more evil bent retreating to the astral plane and living a very xenophobic lifestyle, hunting and basically killing anything that would threaten them, and with no qualms about hunting down Mind Flayers wherever they're detected. The Githzerai chose a more neutral, ascetic existence, living in far-flung sanctuaries in Limbo and elsewhere, trying to just stay away from their evil kin.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. So, like the whole story of the birth of the Githyanki, or I shouldn't say the birth of the Githyanki, but so they have this hero figure, Gith, and Gith and Vlakith go into, was it the Nine Hells? Mm-hmm. And they and then basically Vlakith comes back with this giant red dragon. I think it's Ephemelon.
Yeah,
and says, "Hey, we cut a deal. Gith's cool with it."
Without telling
she's totally cool with it. Yeah. And like, I'm your queen now, and we got to deal with these red dragons because of Tiamat. So, and
that led to the splintering kind of happening.
Yeah,
like,
things didn't settle well after that. Vlakith cemented herself in a fortress in the astral plane called Tu Narath, where she has upheld this compact made with red dragons ever since. She carries a scepter that's a symbol of that compact, and Githyanki and red dragons have been linked inexorably ever since.
Interesting.
Yep.
Are they like dragon riders? Is that kind of the
yep,
thing?
They ride around on the red dragons.
In the astral plane.
Well, and in worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of the things that's really interesting is that in the astral plane, it's a timeless realm. Like, time sort of doesn't pass there for you as far as your body goes and that kind of thing. So you don't have to eat, you don't have to really sleep. You don't. I mean, you just exist.
Yeah.
And so, in order to be born, so Githyanki and Githzerai, presumably, I think both of them, lay eggs, oddly enough. And
they're humanoid bipedals that lay eggs?
Yes.
I don't know how that works, but that's what we say.
Yeah.
But they have to, the Githyanki basically have to go and put that on other planes and other worlds.
The eggs.
To have them grow and mature. And so there are what are called Githyanki creches in secretive places in the worlds, where the Githyanki come and sort of raise their children there, and then there's sort of a rite of passage by which they're supposed to go and kill a mind flayer before they can return to the astral plane, and sort of this paradise of endless existence where they can just be an awesome warrior.
Okay, yeah, we cover some of this.
Evil forever!
Yeah,
but they can't actually be born and grow in a timeless place. They must do it outside of in a place where it is time, and that's where they can be conveniently.
So to replenish their numbers, they have to go. They have to get it on. They have to pop eggs out of their butt in some material plane world.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
And then then the kids come back when they're old enough.
And I imagine it's a pretty horrific, like they're probably sequestered someplace and told how awful and terrible everything else in the universe is.
Yeah.
And
it's reinforced by the fact that adventurers keep breaking into their creches and killing all of them.
And maybe these creches are in red dragon lairs, and things like that. They might be near mind flayers, so that they have a place where they can go pretty much right afterwards
and do their business.
You're all ready to go. Take
Mind
your silver
flayers
sword, go.
We should talk a little bit about silver swords, because they're weird and fun.
Yeah.
What are silver swords?
So, silver swords are these kind of wavy, crazy swords that Githyanki have, and in the astral plane, when you travel there through the astral projection spell, you leave behind you a silver cord, and that travels behind you. And it's this kind
Johnny
of
Darko style.
Yeah, and it's this unbreakable cord thing that just travels behind you. And then when you exit it into another plane, that cord I think it just vanishes. Yeah. And you're then in that other plane to do X, Y, and Z, because you can travel through the astral from.
But you always have to be tethered to something while you're traveling through the astral.
Right. Githyanki can come along and see one of those cords and just snip
with their sword.
Oh, which we also did talk about this in the Astral Plane episode. Yeah, where it's like, oh, that's the ultimate way to be on the offense there. That makes total sense.
And so Githyanki out in the Astral Plane in particular have these silver swords, and they can, if anyone's coming to the astral projecting that way, they can snip those things.
All right. Yeah. Well, what about the Githzerai then? Where do they live?
So they have another figure who's kind of their master figure, who's called
Zerth.
Zerth or Zerthamon.
Zerthamon is
to his friends. He's everyone calls him Zerth.
So they he basically is sort of a more, I don't know, Buddha-like figure. He's like, no, let's not wage eternal war against the mind flayers. We've won this. Like, let's quit
We're
it.
free. Let's be happy about our freedom.
And that doesn't quite work because they still do go after mind flayers, but they also go after Githyanki. But they retreat to Limbo, and Limbo is this crazy plane of chaos where it's fire, water, wood, rocks. There's a fish, right? Like it's just everything happening all at once.
Also timeless though, outside of the planes.
No, you age there. You still need food, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You just can't get it because it moves away from you. It turns into rock. And through their psychic powers there, and I mean, it can be done by other creatures, but the Githzerai themselves are particularly good at it. They can sort of stabilize reality and create their own spaces of reality in it. And so for the ones who are like particularly good at this, the Githzerai that are particularly good at this, I mean, it's like Inception. They can just make stuff happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And the great part is Limbo's such a terrible place that they don't get any, crappy neighbors. It's just really them and the chaos.
They're the only ones who are like basically the controllers of everything that's happening there because they become so attuned to it.
And they have these adamantine sort of citadels that basically just fly through this chaos. And occasionally they'll plant one of those on the world and go to war against some Githyanki Kresh or some mind flayers, colonies, or that kind of thing.
So I'm sensing a lot of conflict here, though, because even though they are the ones that came away from their enslavement being like, we don't have to go ahead and kill everyone. It seems like most of what they do is go and kill everyone anyway.
Yeah.
They just do it
Part
nicely.
of it is, I think, a sense of paranoia. They went through such a hellish time that they've never forgotten or forgiven, nor will they ever allow themselves to be put in that situation again, or even allow anybody to come close to putting them in that situation again.
I see.
So they're sort of aggressive xenophobes.
Yeah, and I mean, mind flayers are essentially an existential threat to the universe.
Yes,
That's true.
yes.
So
if you were going to
and they are among the best equipped to fight them because of the psionic abilities and their training and all that other thing. So they're kind of doing the Githzerai. I think they're doing the universe a favor by eliminating this existential threat. The Githyanki are doing it because they're just still seething with rage over the idea that they were enslaved.
It's still retribution and revenge.
Them all to do because they're all. She has all of these sort of immortal bored people
with swords,
with so much time on their hands.
Gotta do something with it,
and she has to sort of control them all, and so she has this. I mean, it's like tyrants often do. They put fear into the populace and they give them a purpose so that they can control them.
All right,
and so that's what she does.
Yeah, there's always fear in Vlakith's mind that a Githyanki warlord will become so powerful or prominent that he will steal from her some of the glory or whatever. So, and dating all the way back to the earliest renditions of the Githyanki, is this idea that Vlakith is very good about eliminating any potential rivals. When Githyanki become too big for their britches, she either sends them out on a mission designed to get them killed or has somebody kill them. Or kills them herself, sucks out their soul. Yeah. Because did we mention she's a lich?
Yeah.
No, we did not
mention.
Yeah.
So she's an undead mage psionic
super
Githyanki.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. With a scepter that basically allows her to
So just because all right, so Vlakith is the leader of the
she's the lich queen of the Githyanki.
Oh my god.
And Zerthamon's kind of because basically Zerthamon's like this sort of withered corpse-like thing that sort of sits in a little booth, kind of surrounded by flowers and lights and stuff.
So he's perfectly normal,
and he psychically communicates with his people, across the chaos of Limbo.
Hey,
right?
And what you doing?
Yeah.
Having a good day?
I know what you're doing, but I'm going to ask anyway.
but how he manages to sort of sustain his life over what must be millennia at this point.
Are they immortal? I mean, you mentioned immortal. Are they actually immortal, or is it only because of being on the astral plane?
Yeah, they die. Time passes for them. They age. They die. They have offspring to continue their legacy.
And one of the reasons the Githyanki really don't like coming to the material plane is that, as soon as they come, that clock starts ticking, right? So the ones that are assigned to guard Kreshes.
I'm hungry.
Right, like the ones who are it's a punishment.
They all of a sudden have to deal with being alive.
Exactly. It's a punishment to go and be assigned to guard a Kresh because now you have to take care of these whining children, and you have to find food, and you have to fight off all these adventurers.
It's so much better just being on the astral plane where you don't have to deal with any of that stuff.
And we can sail around on big astral ships.
Yep.
'Cause that's what Githyanki
and,
do.
and kill mind flayers.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the other thing they do is they'll just come down and swoop down on a world and just start raiding and looting like crazy flying sky pirates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. So,
What do board Githyanki like? Treasure, apparently. Yeah.
just like most
No,
people, really.
Exactly.
All right. So in Morning Canaan's Tome of Foes, which is coming out everywhere May 29th, you can play as a Githyanki or a Githzerai. There's rules for a player in there. So what would you give a player who wants to try out this kind of character? What kind of plot hooks or story would you love to give them to use, so that are they a traditional member of their race? Are they both?
Yeah, there's so much that you can do. I mean, like, did you fail in your mission to kill a mind flayer? Were you too cowardly?
Did you fall in love with eating pizza and you just don't want to go back to the astral and never hunger for pizza again? There's all kinds of possibilities there. Story possibilities include, like, maybe you've been sent down to find a hidden mind flayer colony that might be hidden in the middle of a city somewhere. And so you shack up with a bunch of adventurers and they'll take you on other quests while you're secretly searching around for any signs of mind flayer domination, thralls moving around, that kind of thing. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Maybe your creche got busted up and you escaped, but now you don't have a way back. You're trying to sort of get back home, And
Oh, I like
you could even
that.
do an odd couple thing where you have one party member who's a Githzerai and one party member who's a Githyanki,
And they
they're
just
forced to
never get
cooperate.
along.
Right. Because in sort of the greater expanded lore of Githyanki and Githzerai, and this was mostly fleshed out in 3rd edition, we hit upon this idea that there are Githyanki and Githzerai who are interested in reunifying the people. It's sort of like that Star Trek episode where Spock's trying to reunify the Vulcans and the Romulans
together.
Most
Yeah.
people don't think it's a good idea, but he thinks it's a great idea, and so there is a sect called the Shassal Ku, and they are made up of Githyanki and Githzerai who want to be one.
Oh my gosh, that almost sounds like a Star Trek.
It does. It does.
I wonder why, Chris.
Well, there's.
Did you name it? Is what I'm trying to know.
No,
Oh, okay.
I did not. But there is actually a bit of a sci-fi bent to these guys.
Yeah.
They're flying around in astral ships. They're wielding these psionic blades. They're using mental powers, not spells in the traditional sense.
And they are very alien. They come from an alien place. So.
Yes. Yeah. So there are sort of science fiction undertones to both of them.
Are there ways that you can, if you say you want to experiment with this, but you don't want to necessarily open it all up to all of that stuff? Are there ways for dungeon masters that can just concentrate on the
absolutely.
more fantasy bent of
you
things?
You could simply say that the characters are survivors of a creche that got decimated.
Right.
And so they were sort of scattered out into the world, and they don't have any knowledge of the astral plane or limbo or where they came from. They were raised from young children in this very isolated, contained environment, and then just kind of thrown out into the world. I think that's a great possibility for characters, and also allows you to play a character without all the baggage.
Yeah.
Or all the alignment predisposition. You can be whatever alignment you want because you have not been influenced by
Your
anything,
forebears.
or your forebears.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because then it becomes that might be a way for a dungeon master who secretly wants to run Spelljammer, but you can kind of get these science fiction ideas out there slowly in your campaign, so it doesn't feel like, oh, by the way, we're doing this, but it's like a way to be a part of the world. I know I've played in a few campaigns where the things that the adventurer party discovers are basically science fiction artifacts, but they're described just in ways of, this is a wand of fireballs. It's bent at one side and only works if you pull this thing, this lever on it, and then all of a sudden that becomes a laser pistol, and then there's ways to make it feel like it's part of your world.
Yep.
Yeah, I think both races come from very different origins, in the sense of, like, you have the Githzerai who are in a place that's very sort of manicured and controlled, and then they have the Githyanki where if you actually got to their plane, went to one of their cities, it's like, they just have stuff from all over the universe that they've been collecting and putting there and trying to sort of enjoy and figure out and so on. Whereas, if you have that character in the world, now they're divorced from both of those things. They don't know. Maybe if they didn't ever experience what was on the astral plane, well, then they're like, what is this thing? Beer? Like, what's that? Like, horses? Oh my God, kill it! Right?
Yeah.
It's clearly a mind flayer in disguise. Kill the horse.
If I were given my choice, I'd want to play a Githyanki who was like the son of a Githyanki pirate whose ship was crashed, basically into the world, and somehow I survived the crash and kind of went off on my own and had to find my own way.
Yeah.
But there would be that sort of sense of longing, or that sort of distant memory of being on that ship ship and wanting to go back and, trying to find my way back into whatever it was my dad came from.
Oh my gosh! I mean, you just called to mind like 4 different movies that are coming out this year that all have like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of feel thing, but also right. So yeah, I love all that.
And then I'm like, what? I'm supposed to be evil?
Yeah!
All right.
Fuck yeah! Here we go.
You get back and it's just total
Give me your
hellscape.
stuff.
Yeah. Give me your stuff. Awesome. Well, people want to ask you questions about Githyanki, Githzerai, or Astral Plane, or Mind Flayers. How can they get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter at Chris Perkins DND.
And I'm on Twitter at Sernet, SERNETT.
Awesome. I'm sure you'll be peppered with lots of questions after this segment. Thank you, guys, and we'll be back with another one next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You're right at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you, guys. We're going to take a little break here and get set up for our next interview. They will be in person. So, yeah, we got to set it all up and get it ready to go. So, see you guys in a couple minutes. Thank you so much for everyone who have subscribed. You are amazing, and you get lots of high fives from everybody here. And you won't have to watch the ads that we are about to play during this here break. But I know some of you really like ads too, so it's very confusing. I'm not really sure. But in the meantime, check all out. This is what's going to happen, and we'll be back in about 5, probably more closer to 10 minutes with Jen Vaughn and Kat Kruger from D20 Dames. Thanks a lot.